was 2012, Japan, when Nikon replaced this Nikon V1 mirrorless digital camera with interchangeable lenses with this model, the Nikon V2, and it was only $800. Let's go. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Carmine from New York, photographer in Manhattan since 1973. This is photo class number 442. Comment below if you have ever used a Nikon 1 camera, the V1, the V2, or the V3, which I have on order. Okay. This camera is incredible. It was introduced in 2012. It makes photographs like this. Now, throughout this whole video, you're going to see the photographs I took with this camera. Let's just go through a few things. This camera is the Nikon V1, and this is the V2. They're both interchangeable cameras. They're both kind of similar in height and weight. The V2 is a little lighter. What's the main differences between the V1 and the V2? They both take the Nikon 1 lenses, right? The lens mount is known as the Nikon 1. Here's the difference. The V2 is 14 megapixels. The V1, 10 megapixels. They both have the same size CMOS sensor. It's called CX. Okay. The V2 has a built-in flash. The V1 does not. I'll show you that built-in flash now. It's right here. It looks like it's part of the prism, but there's no prism. That's an electronic viewfinder. Okay. The ISO range in the V2, the newer one, goes from 160 ISO to 6,400. The V1 had a lower starting ISO of 100 to 3,200. So while the V2 starts a little higher at 160 ISO, it does give you 6,400, and the V1 starts at 100 but only goes to 3,200 ISO. Now, here's another difference. With the battery that's used in the V2, you get 310 shots, and the V1, you get 350 shots. They take different batteries, and you would wonder why that happened. Why do you get 40 shots less on the newer battery on the newer camera? So if you're familiar with the menu of the V1, this is the V1, it's exactly the same on the V2. Nice big screens, okay? They both have gorgeous electronic viewfinders on top. They both have live view, but the difference of the V2 to me is well worth either trading up for the V2 or just getting yourself a V2. They sell used today in minty condition for $200 to $300 for the body, okay? The lenses have come down in price, okay? This is the Nikon 1. This is the 10 to 30 millimeter with VR, vibration reduction. And this is the 30 to 110, also with vibration reduction. Now, if you look at the V2, what the heck is this? This is a full-size, full-frame Nikkor lens. It's the AF Micro for macro photographs and regular photographs, 55mm f2.8, and I have it on the Nikon 1 V2 with a dumb adapter, meaning the lens does not talk to the camera. And all that means is you have to shoot everything in manual. Here's one example of what it looks like shooting in manual. Manual focus, and you have all control over the f-stop, shutter speed, and of course the ISO. This adapter just happens to be, it's about 20 bucks from KNF Concept. I bought it, not a sponsor. It's the Nikon to Nikon 1 mount. Very simple. You can use all of your Nikon F mount lenses. Gorgeous. And that's how this shot was taken. Now, a shot like this, right, was taken with the Nikon 1 V2 and the wide angle 10 to 30 millimeter lens. Okay, fully autofocus, vibration reduction. Okay, the differences with this, right, with this older F mount Nikkor lens, no communication to the camera. There is an adapter that you can get to go from your F mount lenses, and it will communicate with the Nikon 1 V2 or the Nikon 1 V1. I'll put a picture of that adapter up on the screen. I didn't get it because it's too much money. Here's an example, another example of manual, fully manual, using the dumb adapter, right? Nikon F to Nikon 1 adapter. Using this macro or micro lens. This is not a zoom. This is just to show you how close you can get. This is the focusing, all right? The front elements extend to get very, very close. For lighting on all of these macro photographs, that such as this one and this one and this one. By the way, that's what Scotch tape looks like close up right here. The teeth here. That's it. This is by hand, okay, with the 55mm micro lens. What was the lighting? Was it flash? Nope. I use handheld lighting. In this case, it's an older Lytra LED rechargeable light, okay? I use this. So the way I photograph all my macro stuff generally is the camera in my right hand and my lighting in my left hand. And I can look through it. I can adjust where the shadows are going to be, right? I can do backlighting, right? Forward, right off the top. The electronic viewfinder on both, whether it's the V1 or the V2, is so crystal clear that you can see exactly where your shadows are going to be. You can see where your highlights are, right? You look through here, and it has an automatic sensor. Once you put your eye up to the viewfinder, it shuts off the screen. It takes one SD card, both the V2 and the V1. They take one SD card. No grip on the V1. This is the grip on the V2. Absolutely incredible. This is where they put their engineering in. Plus the bigger sensor, 14 megapixel sensor over the 10 megapixel. Now, the camera does not have IBIS. It does not have in-body image stabilization, nor does the V1. But the Nikon 1 line of lenses have VR, vibration reduction, and it works wonderful. Now, the V1 did not have a mode dial on top. Okay, you had to go through the menu. The V2 has a full mode dial, and I'll show you a picture now. It gives you PASM, program, aperture, shutter, and manual modes. Now, one reason why people in sports and action photography love the Nikon 1 V2 is because of the frames per second. Video mode, 60 frames per second in HD. It has built-in stereo microphone. The shutter in the Nikon 1 V2 is rated at 100,000 shutter clicks. Now, we have to talk about the sensor, okay? The sensor is a CX size sensor. It's called a 1-inch sensor. And it gives a crop factor of 2.7. That means that this lens, right, my 55mm micro Nikkor lens, is in reality a 148.5 millimeter lens. The 10 to 30, right, is actually a 27 to 81 millimeter. And here is the 30 to 110 millimeter lens. And it is an 81 to 297 millimeter lens in focal length if it was a 35 millimeter camera. All right, let's look at all the photographs taken with the Nikon 1 V2. Comment below if you've ever used the Nikon 1 camera, either the V1, the V2, or the V3. Subscribe to this channel. Now let's look at all the photographs taken today.